Hi everyone, I'm Patrick Allington, author of a new novel, Rise and Shine, published by Scribe Publications. And I'm here to read a passage for you, with my thanks to Paperback Bookshop. I'm coming to you from my office. Welcome to my office at home in the suburb of Glenalta in the foothills of Adelaide in South Australia. Particular thanks to Paperback Bookshop. It's been a rough year for so many people and so many businesses. It's so clear at the moment, more than it's ever been, the hugely important role that independent booksellers play in our communities, in our culture, in our capacity to conduct the sort of national conversations that we would like to have and that we need to have. So particular thanks to Paperback Bookshop, not only for the chance to read today, but for keeping on. Rise and Shine's a book about the end of the world, which may or may not cheer you up. Hopefully it'll give you a giggle or two along the way, at least. I'm not going to say too much about the book. There are two city-states worth of people left on the planet some 30 years after global catastrophe. They can't eat and drink because the earth is too poisoned, but they subsist by feeding off war footage and empathising with the soldiers who are wounded in battles between the two city-states that are designed for the sole purpose of harvesting that footage, not for the purposes of conquering each other or of killing each other. So I'm going to read a short passage from early in the book. This is Rise and Shine. Walker's compound sat in the barren foothills on the eastern edge of Rise. Down the slope, the inner districts ringed the city centre, a few 100,000 survivors and their offspring. In the outer districts to the west, far from where Walker stood, lived the confused and the edgy and the grief-stained. They weren't outcasts exactly, but they couldn't find a way to embrace the new time with gusto. Beyond the fringes was the desert area that still went by its old name of Grand Lake. The desert separated Rise from the city-state of Shine. Rise and Shine, the only two places, so far as the far-flung drones could determine, where human beings still lived. New cities built over old cities, plastic over stone and brick and wood and concrete. At the same time that Walker and Hale stood in the bedroom facing an image of war on a wall, the central business district of Rise came to a standstill. The crush of pedestrians headed to work and traffic, midget cars leaning close to plastic roads, the wheels for show, paused as huge auto screens made of nothing but the footage itself appeared out of thin air. In the main, the citizens of Rise wore happy and expectant faces as they gazed at the auto screens, even if straightforward exhilaration was impossible. People like to eat, after all, and a designated meal in a public space gave people a chance, a reason to gaze upwards. Yes, the sky was always out there somewhere, beyond the tallest buildings, but on the whole, people preferred to avoid remembering it was there. The filters did their work, cleaning the air of poisons and bitterness, and at the slightest fear of rain, the dome-filled covered Rise. But a citizen called Marley wasn't happy or expectant. Born in the old time and now in her mid-40s, she was a data analyst. Like the majority of the population, she ultimately worked for Cleve, the reclusive chief scientist. Pausing on her way to the office, Marley looked up at the nearest auto screen, the same as everyone around her. She did her best not to let her disinterest in the war footage show. There had to be another way to do this, she had come to feel. Another way to feed the people. Marley didn't know another person in Rise who felt the way she did, although she couldn't believe she was unique. She was uneasy, dissatisfied, but she was also grateful to be alive. She was grateful to have something to eat, She was grateful that she wasn't muddled like those poor people living on the western fringes. At the same moment that Marley was gazing up, feeling her isolation, preparing to eat, individual auto screens appeared in every home in every district in Rise. In House 28, Road 83.2, in the perfectly respectable District 7, a family of 4, Geraldina, Flake and their children, not yet named, sat formally together, heads turned towards an auto screen at the end of the dining table. "We give thanks," Geraldina said. "We do. We give thanks," Flake said. He reached out, took Geraldina's hand and squeezed it. "Come on, children. Give thanks." "Thanks," the girl said. "Yeah, okay, thanks," the boy said. A battalion, each soldier a household name, was caught in a firefight. For a long moment the camera held back, as if making sure that the whole population of Rise was paying attention. And they were, even Marley. As she gazed up, she remembered her younger sister Priya, who hadn't survived the old times. She remembered the purple lump that had grown out of Priya's ear, killing her in a matter of days. Marley often thought of Priya when she ate. The growth had been some sort of cancer, Marley presumed. But she'd never found out for sure. In the chaos, the outsourced authorities had simply taken Priya's body away. The panoramic view of the battle included the whole cracked, parched field, a tiny patch of the once serene, if tourist-infested, the once wet, the once fish-filled, mosquito-breeding Grand Lake. Under a vast cloud of pale red dust, the soldiers danced their desperate dance. They waved guns that discharged bullets designed to wound, not kill. They wrestled with rocket launchers that delivered vibrant, fearful, non-lethal explosions. They yelled and gesticulated. They completed their moves like the experts they were, avoiding the bullets and bombs and manoeuvres of the enemy. A battalion from Shine. This particular battle was going poorly for the soldiers of Rise, which meant it would go very well for the hungry people of Rise. Soon enough, the film homed in on a single soldier, Sergeant Sala, a veteran of many campaigns. Sala was pushing 30, a ripe old age for a foot soldier, or so her friends in the battalion enjoyed telling her. She wore a hard plastic helmet that covered the top and back of her head, including most of her black hair, but which left her face exposed and filthy. Sala crouched behind an isolated boulder. Perhaps she was watching for the right moment to retreat. Perhaps she was preparing to launch a daring and futile counterattack. Whatever her intentions, she was trapped. Fall back now, yelled Holland, Sala's commander. A hero to the people of Rise, Holland had stood beside Walker and Barton when they created the new time. These days, he went to war mic'd up. Marley, watching from the Central Business District, and Geraldina and Flake, watching from home, heard Holland loud and clear. But Sala, the person who most needed to fall back, heard nothing but artillery and an all too familiar ringing in her ears. It had reached the point where she could hear the ringing and not much else, even during the long hours between battles, even when she was on leave. Not that she liked taking leave. It was an occupational hazard, the army medics had told her, which might, just might, pass in time once she stopped going to war. And if not, she'd need a soundtrack planted in her head. Her audience knew nothing about the ringing in Sala's ears, but they could see that she was trapped. As she peered beyond the rock, rifle at her shoulder, a bullet thumped into her cheekbone. She grabbed at her face, and with one hand, while aiming her rifle with the other, letting loose a burst of shots, brilliantly close to her target given the circumstances, as she sprinted to the trench and leapt into it. As she fled, the enemy chose not to shoot her in the back. It wasn't that sort of war. Sprawled in the trench, her legs twisted sideways beneath her torso, she held her bloody head in her hands. For a moment, it seemed as if she might say something. She might stay passively where she had fallen, waiting for someone to come and carry her to safety. But Sala roused herself. This was, after all, the moment she had trained for, the exact moment she'd chosen to become a soldier. She stood up and dropped her hands to her sides, ensuring that her audience could see her face. Walking purposefully, not dawdling, not rushing, and with her rifle slung over her bloodied shoulder, she picked her way through the trench. Soon enough, she found the rest of her battalion. A few of them were nursing minor wounds. Some of them were hacking up dust, and some of them were staring up at the sky, a sure sign of shock. One by one, they saw Sala, saw the blood, saw the skin on her cheek flapping about. Each of them knew that this was Sala's moment. Her friend Cow was the first to break down, and then the rest of them. Duncan, Gracie, Ben, Newt, and the others joined the chorus of wails. Commander Holland, himself deeply moved but far too distinguished to cry in public, held a white cloth to Sala's face. On auto screens everywhere, the people of Rise now saw a replay of the shooting of Sergeant Sala. When viewed in extreme slow motion, the bullet entered her face almost tenderly, easing back the skin above her cheek. Frame by frame, that side of her face broke apart. Then the people saw the moment of impact from behind, the jolt of Sala's head, followed by the spray of blood, bone and cartilage framing the helmet. And then they saw it above, the best view for the splatter pattern. And then the screen blurred and the people heard the sound of bullet hitting flesh, followed by the low grunt that Sala deigned to admit. As the auto screens slowly turned to black, the chorus of the famous song, "Let's Be Tender," swelled. Once the image had vanished completely, the song faded too. The auto screens stayed entirely black for a long moment, until a message flashed. Thanks for watching. We hope you have enjoyed your meal. After a moment, a second message flashed. Thanks be to Walker. Thanks be to Barton. So thank you to Paperback Bookshop for the chance to read. Thank you to you all for listening. That was Rise and Shine, published by Scribe Publications. Bye for now.